it up and edit it if it's like out of whack order. But the first thing I just wanted to ask you was kind of like give your own personal definition of what hardcore is, because it kind of seems like it's something that at least in this stage of the game, it seems like it's kind of a confused thing, and I'd like to see what your personal definition of what it is.
Well, for me, I've been doing a lot of interviews lately because the book came out, and I mean, I've been really going to punk rock shows since the 70s, before there was really hardcore, or whatever they call it. To me, it's punk rock, it's like it gets labeled just like hardcore, like, it's, my main issue with what's going on is just like everything else, it's just been bought up and commercialized and homogenized for mass consumption, and the real original spirit of what the music and the movement represented is pretty much on life support. There's no revolutionary spirit. It's just become like, I got tattoos, I got piercings, I got this, I got that. We play this certain kind of music, and it just started out as a very revolutionary, movement. And for me, I always saw that what Prabhupada gave was the real revolution, because just to complain about everything but offer no solutions, that's, to me, what punk rock was about. And, you have to, what are the solutions? And Prabhupada said, you'll never fix the problems in the material world. It's impossible. But he said, he compared these centers to hospitals. My analogy that I used to say is the material world's like a loony bin, it's like the nut house, and this is the outpatient program. If you want to get sane and stop the insanity, then you come, and you get some real knowledge, because the real revolution is how to stop birth, death, disease, and old age, and that's what Prabhupada said, It's not about, you ain't going to defeat George Bush, you ain't going to defeat the Illuminati, but the real revolution is we don't really care about what you're doing, and, we're going to go do this.
So ultimately it's about overcoming those things within yourself.
Exactly. The revolution is a state of consciousness. That's what Prabhupada said too. That's what I always believe. I'm not picking up arms against anybody. I'll speak out against the evils that are going down, but that's not the ultimate end, to stand out there and be like, 9/11 was an inside job. We all know it was. But they're getting more and more of a stranglehold on the masses, and they don't want people to read, Prabhupada's books, or, the highest revolution that could exist is what Prabhupada brought. And he said, if they knew what I came here to do, they would have killed me. But they killed his movement, They tried to anyway. This is like the spark, and we're trying to fan it and turn it into a blazing fire now. This center, and these centers that are for Prabhupada, it's the real way it was supposed to be run. Coming from this movement for, 20-something years, it's like I saw what they did, and, to me that's the real revolution, is, on a universal level. Not, just complain. That's what intrigued me about the Bad Brains. They were saying something. I knew the Sex Pistols, I knew all those bands, the Dead Boys in the 70s, and what really intrigued me was where the Bad Brains were coming from with their revolution. HR was talking about something I had never heard any punk rock talk about. And they were the baddest dudes around. So.
Yeah. They infused the whole spirituality aspect into it.
Yeah. In a way, those guys were like a type of guru or teacher that I was intrigued by them not preaching, but just going and doing their thing, and then it was like, they did it by example. And that's what Prabhupada said too, was example is better than precept. You know, the Bad Brains showed the way. They went out there, they played the most amazing music. They were vegetarians, they believed in God, you know. Yeah. And it just inspired me to look further into that whole. They were surrounded, their core group of individuals in the beginning were very enlightened, spiritual people. That's who they attracted. So it was just inevitable that I would seek my own path.
Yeah, it's weird. It seems like, especially now, it's like very frowned upon to have like some type of spiritual infusion. And whatever they would call like hardcore punk rock music, it seems like even from the early 90s, I could see, you know, we're talking about Kali Yuga, they were talking about Kali Yuga in this age, you know, or even Revelation, you know, you can talk about Armageddon and Revelations, like I could see even in the last, you know, 18 years, the degraded collective like social consciousness, especially with the youth.
Well, that's the way they want it, you know. If the youth are just going along with mass media, commercialism, all this stuff, and organized religion, controlling the people with these doctrines, you know, I mean, the Pope was just here. And what's that all about? Guy was Nazi youth. The last Pope sold cyanide. You know, it's like...
The Black Pope. He was a Nazi.
Yeah. I mean, Prescott Bush was a Nazi. So who are all these individuals? Prabhupada said there's been 8 families that they're Rakshasa, or they come from a very demoniac lineage from like hellish planets. And they've been the families controlling this planet. Yeah. Prabhupada said that. So it's the dumbing down of the youth. It's, you know, Jesse Ventura stood up and, you know, said, look what they're doing, you know. I mean, my next book talks all about it. Gradually, the way I'm writing is to ultimately, my next book is going to be vegetarianism and the conspiracy that's been conducted on our health and against the animals in the world. And then ultimately it'll lead to, you know, I'm going to write a book about the real revolution, you know. But, you know, it's the way they want it.
You talking about the fluoride in the water and the vaccines?
All that stuff. I mean, you know, they're doing all kinds of stuff. So, you know, genetically modified food, radiated food. You know, my next book gets into all that stuff, but, you know.
It's a shame the way the people are they're gonna look at you, what you're saying, they're gonna be like, oh, conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, but it's not a theory. You know? If you have evidence that backs up what you're saying, it's no longer a theory, it's a possibility. And I have medical evidence, and I have evidence of all this stuff, like Codex Alimentarius that's being implemented 2009. This is not conspiracy. This is not conspiracy theories, what Monsanto's doing along with Rumsfeld, who owns the patents on seeds. This is not conspiracy theories. You know, there's scientific evidence backing up everything that was done, you know, through the whole 9/11 and everything else. But, you know, it's like I said, I don't really care, because what any so-called hardcore like, you know, I just did an interview, and it was a thing that makes certain albums stand the test of time. Cro-Mags' first album, Bad Brains, was the message. If you just have some mundane message, it's subject to time and place. So the real